And the Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, Duwamish people, past and present. And it's with humility that we recognize how much we benefit from living on their land and water. The Seattle Community Police Commission honors and respects these tribes, and we hope that this acknowledgement will encourage authentic relationships with urban Native people and all Coast Salish tribes. And at this point, I will take attendance. Commissioner Lars Erickson.
Here.
Good morning. Commissioner Hunter, present. Commissioner Suzette Dickerson.
Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Lynn Wilson.
Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Raven Nicole Tyler. Commissioner Mary Ruffin. Commissioner Reverend Harriet Walden.
Present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Joel Merkel.
Good morning, present.
Morning. Commissioner Joseph Saya. Commissioner Lejaya Washington. Commissioner Officer Mark Mullins.
Officer Mark Mullins is present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Alina Santillan. Commissioner Jeremy Wood.
Present.
Good morning. And Commissioner Tasha Johnson.
She's here.
Was that Tasha Johnson?
It was.
I am present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Erica Newman will not be here today. She has an excused absence. Would like to add a very special welcome to Commissioner Lars Erickson. This is your first CPC meeting. Even though you were confirmed before our last meeting, you had an excused absence and couldn't be with us. So we're very happy that you are here today. So would you say a word about yourself of introduction?
Thank you. I appreciate it. I live a longtime resident of Capitol Hill. I lived in Capitol Hill for 17 years. I'm originally from Minnesota and worked in government in Washington, D.C. before coming to the state of Washington. And I served as press secretary for Governor Chris Gregoire in her first term in office. And since then, I've worked in local government in Pierce County and then for the state at WashDOT before coming to work for the Seattle Metro Chamber. My partner is a police officer in Vancouver, British Columbia. And so I've had, we've been together for 13 years, go back and forth every week between Seattle and Vancouver. And so I've been, obviously law enforcement has been a part of my life through him. And so I'm really pleased to be here working for my community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are happy that you are with us. In an email that was sent this week, we received the draft agenda. And so I would be happy to entertain a motion to receive the agenda for today.
So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the agenda for today. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Also in the email that was sent, we received the draft minutes. I would like to put forward a correction for the minutes. Under co-chair updates, and if we go down to amicus filing, the second sentence should read, Isaac Ruiz worked on the amicus brief, and yesterday CPC's retained counsel provided a draft of the brief, and this was circulated among commissioners yesterday. So I'd like to offer that correction. Any other corrections to the minutes? I would entertain a motion to receive the minutes as corrected.
Step away from the chair.
Thank you. It's been moved that the minutes be received as corrected. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as corrected, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Great, thank you. The minutes have been adopted. Co-chair updates, we wanted to let everyone know that the amicus brief was filed with the court last week, and that we had voted to do that at our last CPC meeting. Any other co-chair updates?
I would just add, just on the amicus brief, it was filed with the court last Wednesday, and my understanding is there is a hearing on the city's and DOJ's joint motion on May 30, I believe at 1 p.m., maybe 1:30 p.m. It's an afternoon hearing in federal court, downtown Seattle, and commissioners are welcome to go and appear. I think the co-chairs intend on being there, but anyway, that's the update.
Thank you. And now our executive director updates.
Great, thank you. So I'm very excited about the upcoming training and orientation we have for new commissioners, but also to re-engage existing commissioners. This is on May 17th. I've sent multiple RSVP emails about it. It's very important that you respond to the RSVP email whether or not you intend to join, so that we can determine quorum and also accommodations. This will be a catered event, and we have a lot of great speakers already lined up. So I'm very excited about that going forward. As well, we are excited in the next meeting on the 17th, we'll be welcoming our new executive assistant who's already been hired and will be joining us on May 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving right along to commissioner work group updates. And commissioners, if you would give us updates on what's going on in your work groups. And the first one is complaints and appeals. Commissioner Wood or Ruffin?
I'm happy to speak, and Mary can correct if I missed anything. So we had a great meeting yesterday with Mina, and Commissioner Dickerson was kind enough to join us because we're looking at a couple things right now. First of all, we're looking at, and I may have previewed this in a previous update, but submitting a letter to some of the city side negotiators in the current CBA bargaining. And we identified at least one key issue to raise there, thanks to Mina's idea. Currently, there's this 180-day bar under the CBA to consideration by the OPA of complaints. It can be reopened and extended only at the initiative of the involved officer. We're hoping to raise the issue in the CBA bargaining to make that bilateral and allow a complainant to submit an appeal that would reopen for perhaps 30 days to allow for review by somebody, perhaps including commissioners from the CPC. We're also looking at some other issues, but anyways, so we're hoping to submit a letter to the council side folks on that. We're hoping to send that next week. If there's any ideas or feedback from the commission at large, very happy to entertain that conversation. The second piece is we've been requested by council members Mosqueda and Herbold to submit fuller recommendations for improvement to the current complaint process, OPA, OIG, and where that can be expanded based on our mandate in the accountability ordinance. The council members are looking at that to receive that by September, and so we've just started having preliminary conversations on what that would look like. That's what we got.
Thank you. Commissioner Ruffin, did you want to add anything to that? I see that you are here at this
I
time.
think that covers anything. If there's anybody who's new to the commission, again, who wants to help in these efforts, you can shoot either of us an email and we can get back to you. I think after the letter, we'll be turning again to try to really engage the community. And we had talked about potentially doing a panel, but just because of the timing of negotiations right now, we're prioritizing getting this letter out and hopefully getting some of these requests heard.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions for complaint and appeals work group folks?
Officer Mullins has a question.
Yes, sir.
So, and it's a question. 180 days. 180 days is not enough to investigate a complaint and interview officers involved, interview witnesses. 180 days is not enough. That's a question to the committee.
I mean, I think it's an excellent question, and frankly, it's one that we've pondered as well. But what we've heard from OPA is that it takes them those 180 days to do exactly what you said, Commissioner Mullen, to investigate, to interview, to do those initial fact findings, and it leaves no time to have a level of review by anyone but those doing the investigation. And so if we want to have an appeals process at all, which we're required to consider under the accountability ordinance, I wish it were otherwise, and there might be a future of navigating that with OPA, but under their current process, there is no time in that 180 days to have that level of appellate review.
Thank you.
Having gone through the process myself a few times, it seems as though they get around to me pretty quickly. Also, 180 days for an officer, and I just want people to think of it in terms of the human being on the other side. If you have a complaint against you and you are waiting to have your day to talk about it and to defend yourself and to try to say what happened, and you're concerned about this because you want to say your piece, 180 days is a long time to wait and have it hanging over your head.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. It's a long timetable as it is, and I wish that OPA's process allowed for review to happen during that time. It is, however, just the fact that, I mean, yeah, no, I think that this is obviously a very important and very difficult process on both sides, right? Both the officer and the complainant. And to offer only one of those sides the chance to have further review, but not the other, is just simply not fair.
And by all means, I want people to be able to have their day. If they have a complaint against police officers, of course, I want that to be looked into, and I want it to be investigated and worked out. I do. But 180 days to wait on someone to find out whether you're in deep trouble or not is kind of it goes against officer wellness, that's for sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Officer Mullins. Moving on to the update from the community engagement, Commissioner Santillan.
Yeah, I just emailed Felicia about us getting together. So we'll give an update next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Police practices, Commissioner Washington?
Looks like she's not here.
Oh, okay. Moving along. Behavioral health, she's,
No. So this is Tasha Johnson. So yeah, it looks like Lejea's not here. I didn't realize that, but I can give an update on police practices.
thank you.
We did meet last week, and we are still in the early aughts of us figuring out what we want to review. And we're looking at a few topics, one of them being addressing the use of force in crowd control, addressing police vehicle management and operation, and addressing the SPD deception or ruse policy. And we talked about the use of the word deception. So we have a few things that we're looking at prioritizing and reviewing some documents to see where we want to start. And Officer Mullins is also, working on getting a presentation on current SPD policies, trainings, and practices regarding crowd control, including POET. And I don't know a ton about that, but if you, Officer Mullins wanted to say 2 words about it, cool. If not, then I will leave that as our update.
Sure, I'll say a few words. So the POET team is a new approach to demonstration management, and it so far is working beautifully. My idea is to get some of the members and maybe even the sergeant of the POET team in on our committee, police practices, to explain what POET is and what it does. And eventually coming to the main meeting here to explain POET and how SPD has basically reformed their ideas about how to handle demonstrations.
Thank you. I know that POET is an acronym, and I heard the chief talk about it yesterday, but I cannot remember what the acronym stands for. So can anyone help us out there?
I'm not very good at alphabets either.
Yeah, I asked you. I don't know. I have no
All
idea.
right, well, we'll look that up and clarify that for our next meeting. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Also, this POET was one of the recommendations from the Sentinel Review.
Mhm.
I mean, because the Sentinel Review made a few recommendations to SPD around crowd management, and I think I think most of them was accepted, and some of them has already been trained on and acted on, like POET and that type of stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, that came out of the Sentinel Review.
Thank you. Our last work group is behavioral health. Is there someone that can report out on that work group? All right. Well, we'll move along, and at our next meeting, hopefully we'll have an update from behavioral health. And now our staff department updates, community engagement, Felicia Cross.
Well, we have my 2 coworkers here have been really out in the community. The one I will let each one of them say just a little bit about some of the activities in the last couple of weeks. And I would also suggest that anyone who hasn't already gone to look at the CPC Twitter account. We've been having some fantastic press from our communications person, Megan. She has been doing an excellent job with highlighting and promoting the things that we're doing out in the community. And so if you just want to just give a little overview of some of the things that we've been doing.
Yeah, we have been out in senior programs like Filipino seniors, and we were out speaking, Megan and I, and Rainer Beach, and of course, you were there also. To let the community know what we do. Not many people know.
In addition, we've been reaching out across the board with our partners, with OPA, with their engagement team as well, just talking about more strategies for us to come together and just come as one and just to be a force out there to just represent and yeah, just to get our good name out there.
The one last thing I would add is that we are putting together a calendar of events, and we will be tabling several CFAIR and other events. If you know of any events, commissioners, please email us and just let us know in your community so that we can, you know, plan to, you know, table and have some of our swag and things there to talk about CPC. So we really encourage, and then we also will be sending out information to the commissioners so that you can know what's going on and also participate. Thank you.
Thank you. And now an update from our policy work group. Mina?
Thank you. You'll hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a quick update. Thank you to the new commissioners for joining a work group. I come to that Lynn Wilson and Lawrence Erickson have joined the behavioral health work group, and Raven Nicole Tyler has joined police practices. If there are any commissioners who don't have a work group, please reach out to me. I'm pretty sure everyone has a work group at this point. And then relatedly, if you want to change work groups, please also reach out. I'm happy to move you over to something that you might be more interested in. One other update, we have a couple other commissioners joining us next week. I'm excited that 2 more commissioners are being confirmed next Tuesday, May 9th by the Public Safety and Human Services Committee. Adrian Levitt, who will fill the public defense position, and Anthony Gackley, who will fill the SPMA position. And both are CPC appointees, and we look forward to having them join once they have been confirmed. And we'll have more to share on these commissioners when they join us at our next bi-monthly meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our last staff department update on legislative concerns, our interim director colleague.
Thank you. So I really encourage you to follow for the entire legislative session 2023. I've been putting regular updates on Twitter as the progress has been going through. The last one was last Friday because it is now all over. The most important thing to know about legislative work and where it's going in the future is that a lot of it is going to start in the summer and the fall. So if you're curious at all or interested in what the State Legislative Affairs Work Group is doing, this is some of the most important time for us. We have some very exciting plans to connect the work of the policy team and the Legislative Affairs Work Group with community engagement and get a lot more community interest and involvement in some of the bills that you may recall died in this last session, even though they were very important police reform bills. So keep an eye out for that. Please feel free to get in touch with me or Mina or Commissioner Joel Merkel or Commissioner Suzette Dickerson, who've been working on this, as well as Commissioner Jeremy Wood. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, because the work is continuous, it is never ending, and this is a very important time that we're entering into. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any new business, so we'll go right into our department updates. Is there any update from the City Council? I think I saw Newell.
Thank you, Co-Chair Hunter. The only update is just following up on what Mina said, that the Public Safety and Human Services Committee will be hearing the 2 appointments from the CPC at the meeting next Tuesday, the 9th, and assuming passage, the City Council would act on Tuesday, the 16th at the full City Council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Newell. Is there an update from the mayor's office? Okay, how about from the monitoring team? I think I saw Ron.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There is no report of substance from the monitoring team. The team continues to complete the accountability assessment under the aegis of our consultant, Dr. Richard Rosenthal. And we are continuing to ready ourselves for the status conference on May 30th. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Ward. Is there an update from the Department of Justice?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Matt Waldron from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Same as Ron, just continuing to get ready for the hearing at the end of the month and reviewing the amicus filings that came in last week. That's the update from you.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there an update from Office of Police Accountability?
Yep. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm Justin Picrelli. I'm OPA's policy manager. And a couple of quick updates. We've got an assistant general counsel position that's in the backgrounding stage. I guess that's going to take a little time, as you folks know. And then we've got a project manager that starts next week that we're really excited about. Other than that, I'm working through kind of a backlog of management action recommendations. And so I'm looking forward to getting some of those out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Is there an update from the Office of Inspector General? Okay. How about an update from the Seattle Police Department? All right.
Oh,
Well,
I see Eric Greeny.
from the Seattle Police Department? Is there an update from the SPD?
Sure, I'll just follow up on the comments made earlier about POET. POET stands for Public Outreach Engagement Team. They're comprised of volunteer officers. This was proposed out of Sentinel Event Review, the OIG. They made contact with some academics over in Europe. There are various countries in Europe that use this method quite a bit, various free speech demonstrations. We have attempted to use it for about the last year. The hiccups that we have with the program, we have volunteers right now. So it's getting a cadre large enough. If some of the members are not available, we have other backfill officers. The theory is we have demonstrations to have these folks go out and make conversations with demonstrators, kind of set the tone, say we're here to facilitate free speech events, and also give some kind of instruction on how the groups can self-police themselves. So say, for instance, we have folks in the group that are committing crimes or throwing things. We want to facilitate a conversation about how the peaceful protesters can move away from those folks and we don't have an escalation of violence in the crowd. So that's just an example, and I'll leave it at that for right now. If anyone has any questions, I can follow up with you.
I just want to say again that the acronym stands for Public Outreach Engagement Team. Is that correct?
That's correct. I just checked.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of acronyms that just fly around. So
thank you, Chief. That's why you're Chief. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I believe there is a representative from OIG that is here that could give an update at this time. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We're having technical difficulties, but yeah, Dan Pitts, I was supervisor OIG. The only thing I have on hand right now is that we last Friday issued the first three of our many surveillance technology reviews, which is an annual obligation that we have under SMT 14. Those technologies were FLIR, forward-looking infrared camera, which was up on the King County helicopters, CAD, computer-aided dispatch, and CopLogic, which is the online reporting system available to the public and retailers. So yeah, issued the first three of those. We have 7 more that are due throughout the rest of this year. So we'll be cranking those out as quickly as we can. And the 3 that we have are available on our website.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As we continue on with our agenda, we will now move into the ordinance review and discussion, and Commissioner Merkel will lead this portion of our meeting. Commissioner Merkel.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunter. And so this is a continuation of the discussion we had at the last commission meeting on April 19. So we have the same documents that we had 2 weeks ago that we sent out to the commission that we're going to talk about today. And the first one is some proposed changes to the accountability ordinance. So we had a good discussion at the commission at the last meeting. Since then, we've had 2, I guess, ad hoc work group meetings that several commissioners attended, and there was a discussion on both the accountability ordinance recommended changes and also the bylaw changes. So today, first, we're going to start with the ordinance review and discussion. What I think I'll do is go through the changes, but I'm not going to go through in detail that I went last time, but just kind of refresh everyone as to the topic of the recommended changes, and maybe summarize some of the discussion in the work group. I know some of the commissioners who were at those work group meetings are also here. I'll let them kind of provide their reflections on those work group meetings. And then I'd like to open it up to additional discussion if there is any, and a motion to recommend these changes to council. But just to go through the ordinance, first, the first recommendation was to create a position of the deputy director within the CPC staff as its standalone FTE, a new FTE. There seemed to be broad support and little discussion on that point. The next one was to clarify the CPC's role in reviewing changes to the SPD policy manual, to clarify that it does in fact include new policy, not just changes to policy. Establish qualifications for the CPC executive director. Really the discussion there was to borrow language that's already in the ordinance for qualifications for the ED, for OPA and OIG, although the ultimate language would have to be tailored to the CPC, but by and large, the qualifications would be substantially similar. The next recommendation, number 4, was to improve the process for how the CPC may consider removing its executive director for cause. There was the next item was clarifying the co-chair and ED supervisor relationship. The next recommendation was to reduce the size of the commission from 21 to 15. Then there is to clarify, the next recommendation is to clarify the authority that the CPC has to remove its own appointed commissioners, commissioners that are appointed by the CPC. The next recommendation is to clarify in the ordinance the mission of the CPC. Essentially, there's a line in the current ordinance that relates to the CPC's role to help ensure public confidence in the effectiveness and professionalism of SPD, among other things. And those other things seem to be appropriate, but with respect to ensuring confidence and effectiveness in the professionalism of SPD, that seemed not necessarily something the CPC should be responsible for. That seems to be something SPD should be responsible for. So this recommendation would just remove that language from the ordinance. The next recommendation is to remove assignments of commissioners to city council districts. And really, the heart of the discussion there was that's kind of beyond the ability of volunteer commissioners to do, and also takes away from commissioners' abilities to focus on communities rather than geographic districts, political districts. And then the final 2 recommendations related to commissioner stipends. One was to clarify that commissioner stipends are tied to participation and attendance. And then finally, there was a recommendation to provide for a co-chair stipend, given the enhanced co-chair responsibilities in the ordinance. So this is the discussion draft that we discussed last week and during the work group meetings. I do want to entertain a motion to recommend that the city council adopt these recommendations in substantially the same format as they are in now, with the understanding that whenever we see legislative draft language, we would have the opportunity to provide input and feedback to the council. But I do want to make sure there's any, to the extent that the folks want to add to the discussion that we've already had, that they have that opportunity now. So with that, I'll open up the floor.
I was at the meeting.
Yeah, Reverend Walton, you go ahead.
I was at the last meeting and I thought it was robust and people was really engaged and had some concerns and voiced them there. And I think it's recaptured a lot of those for the draft.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to file a motion for that. This
Okay.
Commissioner Santillan.
Hi, Commissioner Santillan. And is your motion to recommend that the city council adopt these proposed changes in substantially the same format as they're in now?
Correct. I think the only kind of feedback that I guess I should have said this before. Sorry, Joel. Was just the comment on the 15 to 21. Was that something that I mean, I attended all of the meetings that we had to discuss those, but I would assume other commissioners, I can't remember, someone else was there, Joel, during that meeting, and I can't remember who else had a concern about that. Sorry, I just saw that when I made that motion.
Yeah. So there is a motion on the floor. If there's a point of clarification, my recollection was that you expressed some concern about going from 21 to 15. I don't recall others expressing concern, but I know there was other discussion. So
it was hold on, let me see if she's on this call. It was a new Raven, was that you, Commissioner Tyler?
I know Commissioner Tyler was on the call. I don't recall her expressing concern. If I misremember that, perhaps she can clarify. Whoops, and we've lost light. Yeah. Well, let's do this. Is there a second to the motion?
I step away from the chair and accept make a second to the motion.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. And is there a discussion on the motion? And Commissioner Santillan, this would be the appropriate time to have that discussion. If you have any concerns about that or perhaps have an amendment, that's certainly in order. But is there any discussion on the motion to recommend that the city council adopt these recommendations in substantially the same format that they've been provided in the draft document?
Yeah, I know that there were other commissioners. I don't know if they're on this call that are concerned about reducing the number. I don't know if anybody wants to express that, if those commissioners are on the call.
Suzette has.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Suzette.
Yeah,
Suzette.
So, given the fact that it sounds like there may be some concerns, could it be possible for people to be able to maybe review things and then try to do the motion at a later date?
Yeah, I'm happy to withdraw that, Joel, if that feels better. I, for some reason, was looking at the bylaws when we were doing the ordinance, and I forgot that the number of commissioners are in the ordinance, not the bylaws, and that's my apologies.
Right. So my notes indicate that there was 2 work group meetings. The first work group meeting was attended by Lynn Wilson, Commissioner Lynn Wilson, and myself, and you, Commissioner Santillan. I recall Commissioner Santillan expressed some concern at the first work group meeting. I did not hear Commissioner Wilson express any concern, although Commissioner Wilson's here with us today. Do you have any, did I get that right?
Yeah, I think 21 is almost unmanageable number, and I don't know if you've ever had 21 commissioners, but I also question what the impact is on the staff to coordinate 21 commissioners. Seems like a really large number. And I think we talked about it at the meeting, and some of these other commissions that have gone to 21 are really struggling with retaining people, so.
And
That was my 15 seems like a lot too, but manageable.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wilson. I just want to make sure I answer Commissioner Santillan's question. And then Commissioner Santillan, my recollection in my notes from the Friday work group meeting we had just a few days ago was it was attended by yourself, me, Commissioner Raven Tyler, Erica Newman, and Commissioner Walden. My notes indicate that Erica Newman, who's not present today, was in support. I have notes that at the last CPC meeting 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Wood expressed support for this. Commissioner Walden expressed support for this. I know you expressed some concern. My notes indicate that, did not indicate that Commissioner Raven expressed any concern, although Commissioner Tyler is on, I believe, on the call today. No, she's not on the call today.
She's dropping in and out.
She's dropping in
She
and
sent
out.
me a message.
But I don't have any notes indicated she had some concern. So if there's a motion, so anyway, this is to say that if there's a motion to amend or that particular part of the recommendation, I can entertain that.
I'd like to speak to that part of the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
And then stepping away from the chair, I too think that having 21 is unwieldy. And since I have been on the commission, which is 2 years now, never had participation from the 21 people. And so I believe that if we reduce the number, it becomes more manageable. And that the responsibility for those 15, it becomes greater, and we will get greater engagement. I think there was a hope that when the number was expanded, that we would get greater participation, and that there was so much work to do that more individuals were needed. But in the 2 years that I have been on the commission, that has not panned out in such a way. And so I am supportive of reducing it to 15, and hope we continue with the motion that's on the floor, that we support it.
If all the commissioners that are here on this call feel like you can get all of the work done with 15 people, then I'm happy to continue the motion. It is a lot for new commissioners, just so you're aware. I assume you all have full-time jobs as well, but if everybody feels like we can be more effective and productive, I'm happy to keep that on the floor, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Commissioner Santillan. Is there any is there any other commissioners that want to speak to any of the recommended changes? Have any thoughts on the ordinance, or perhaps even have a motion to amend or anything like that? Reverend Walden.
I'd like to just speak to the ordinance over all the recommended changes. I mean, because remember, this was written in 2017. A lot of things have occurred since that time, and we were encouraged by another commission office. They wanted to go to 21, and so they supported us, and we supported them. The idea was what the Reverend Hunter said, and we thought the work. And we have some commissions been here, and then for the last few years, and not been part of work groups. So we thought that we actually thought they would give us more hands to do the work. They did a tremendous amount of work the first 6 years with just 15 people. And we just thought we could get more work done. especially when we have to be out in the communities that we're talking about, taking that out, and all the other work that we're supposed to have gotten done. And so I think it's a great idea, but it never did come to fruition the way that we had hoped at that time. So just as a point of history, not to talk of other people and not like that, but just a point of history of why we wanted to do that. And we were deliriously happy, thinking that it was going to get a lot more participation. But over time, that did not pan out, and our quorum goes up. The quorum does go up, and it affects the quorum very much. So when you got 21, and people there who's appointed are not present, then the quorum, and because we had gone to that, we've experienced 3 times, or maybe 4 times not having a quorum. Prior to that time, we had never had a meeting that we had to cancel because we didn't have a quorum.
Commissioner Wood.
I just want to echo Commissioner Walden a little bit with history. I mentioned this last time, so just very briefly that I had actually drafted the ordinance for the OCR commissions to be raised to 21. I do believe that there have been moments in time since then when that full 21 was staffed and effective, but I agree with co-chair Hunter and Reverend Walden that more often than not, it's led to issues of quorum. I mean, I think ideally, like I mentioned, I would like to see a lower default number with the option by the commission to expand it as needed. But between the choices, I think lowering the number would make things more manageable. So just echoing.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Well, unless there's any additional discussion or comments or questions, I'm not seeing any right now. So we can go ahead and vote on the motion, which is to forward to the City Council recommended changes to the ordinance, the accountability ordinance, in substantially the same format as they've been discussed in the discussion draft. We're going to do a roll call vote. I'll start with, I'm just going to go through the list of attendants. Commissioner Erickson.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Commissioner Dickerson. Commissioner Dickerson. Come back. Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Commissioner Walden.
Yes.
Commissioner Merkel, that's me, yes. Commissioner Mullins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner Santillan.
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler. May not be on at the moment. Commissioner Ruffin.
Yes.
And coming back to Commissioner Dickerson. May have stepped away.
Yes.
Oh, there's Commissioner Dickerson. Thank you. Okay. Looks like that passes. I think it was 11-0. Thank you, everyone. And co-chairs will work on submitting those recommendations to the City Council. And as I mentioned, when we see legislative draft language regarding these changes, we will have another commission discussion and an opportunity to comment to the council on the actual specific language. But thank you for that discussion last week over the work groups and today. That brings us into our bylaws discussion. And what I'll do is I'll do the same thing I did on the ordinance proposals. I'll just go through the changes as they are listed in the proposed draft. In addition to those changes in the proposed draft summary, we actually have red line edits, which were shared with you 2 weeks ago and again shared with you yesterday. This is the opportunity to discuss those changes under our current bylaws. Now that we've had one commission meeting where these were discussed, we are under our bylaws authorized to vote on them today. To go through the changes first, in Article 2 with respect to administration and operation, consistent with the bylaws changes or the ordinance changes, we're just clarifying the supervisory role between the EDs and the co-chair, the ED and the co-chairs, clarifying the ED's responsibilities. And we're actually creating a new section related to CPC communications. The current bylaws have a section within the ED responsibility related to communications. However, communications have changed a lot since 2017. So we felt it was a good idea to have its own section, communications to have its own section. Article 3 relates to commissioners, commissioner expectations, clarifying the CPC authority to remove its own commissioners, similar to the change we talked about in the ordinance, and also clarifying the participation required for a stipend, which we also just discussed in the ordinance. Next is Article 4, officers, election of officers. One would improve, regarding stability of leadership, increases the co-chair term from 1 year to 2 years, removes the requirement that co-chairs cannot be from the same appointing authority, removes the sergeant at arms position, and then also reduces the threshold for removing a co-chair for cause from 3/4 to 2/3. Article 5, with respect to meetings, establishes a permanent hybrid in-person meeting option while also requiring attendance at regular meetings in person at least once per month, and also for cameras to be used during meetings. Article 7 clarifies some changes to ad hoc committees, changes it to work groups, because that's the term of art we've been using on our work groups. Clarifies members of the governance committee, clarifies roles of staff and commissioners in the work groups. And then Article 11 changes the threshold of amending the bylaws from 2/3 to 1/2. So there's obviously some more details in there that are contained within the red line edits, but this is the opportunity to continue the discussion that we had at the last meeting and also during the work groups. I will say during the 2 work group meetings, the second work group meeting, which was last Friday, we did not have time to discuss the bylaws. The bylaws were discussed more during the first work group meeting, which again was attended by Commissioner Lynn Wilson, myself, and Commissioner Santillan. So at this time, I'll open up the floor to discussion of the bylaws, bylaw changes, and we'll go from there. Does anyone have any comments or discussion or questions on what's in front of us with respect to the bylaws changes? Commissioner Dickerson.
I have one concern, and that's in regards to the cameras being on, because sometimes, when we're, like Commissioner Santillan has said earlier, a lot of us have day jobs. And we have competing interests, whether, it may be that we have to take a call in our car, or we may be in competing meetings like I am right now. So it's not always feasible for those of us to keep our camera on. And so I just wanted to put that out there. I mean, that's the case for me, and especially as a rep, and I'm doing multiple things at one time.
Thank you, Commissioner Dickerson. I will say that was a concern that a couple commissioners raised in the work groups as well. Thank you for that.
I have a comment.
Yeah, Commissioner Wilson.
So I think there's a conflict between, let me see, page 9, paragraph F on the hybrid in-person and remote meetings, and the requirement that the cameras be on during the entire time, or it will be considered an unexcused absence, which I think is, the conflict is that
I'm sorry, can you tell me what page you're on?
Page 9, paragraph F talks about hybrid meetings. it allows commissioners to have the option of attending commission and committee meetings in person or remotely in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. And I did look up the recent revisions to the Open Public Meetings Act, and it allows for governing body commissioners, governing bodies of public agencies to attend by telephone. And I just think if you can attend by telephone without a camera, I get the concern that it's a lot better for people participating and we can see each other. But if you legally, under the Open Public Meetings Act, which it explicitly allows in here, calling in by phone, I don't see how you can then require cameras because it's not possible. And also, I just think, you know, just administratively, so, you know, if you're in your home office and somebody's banging on the door, or you have some issue, or you have to take a bathroom break, I mean, like, how are you going to administer that? I just don't, I understand the concern, but I just question, first of all, the fact that it conflicts with the Open Public Meetings Act. And then second, that it's just administratively going to be kind of a nightmare. So those are my concerns.
Commissioner Johnson.
Hey there. I have a similar concern. As you can see, I'm off camera right now. As I often have competing meetings as well. It's not every single week, but what am I trying to say? The things that I need to do that require me to be there, whether virtually or in person, often conflict. And unfortunately, I was unable to attend the small group meetings. I really, really wanted to, but those conflicted with my work meetings as well. So I was unable to give any input. But the things that I'm noticing, or that are really sticking out to me, and one, because they do affect me personally, one is this camera, the camera bylaw, or the changes to that. And the other is the stipend. And it just feels like there's a trend to making this almost as petty as possible. And I realized that attending in person used to be a requirement. However, I have two comrades that I worked with that were previously on the commission. And part of the reason why they stepped away from the commission before their time is because they were unable to make the meetings in person. So I do realize that before COVID, that was a requirement, and I was ready to live into it. And then COVID happened. And one of the things I don't want to say that I'm thankful to COVID for, but that I've learned from COVID is that there's more than one way of being. And the way that we all existed prior to COVID probably didn't include Teams meetings as often, didn't include Zoom meetings as often. Now that's what my day consists of. And if we're really talking about being a part of the community and being a community police commission, then I think that making the attendance to the meetings as easy and accessible as possible would make the most sense. So requiring that the attendance in person is difficult for me to be able to attend. And then even the requirements on camera, I know that sounds low barrier, but instead of making it as difficult as possible for people to be able to attend, the ability to attend the meetings hybridly, and oh gosh, I lost my train, but attend the meetings in hybrid has allowed me to be more of a participant. Now, that does not speak to some of the difficulties that we had with leadership before in terms of joining the work groups and getting participation in other ways. But I feel like we're working those things out. And still, we're making these changes to the bylaws that make it as difficult as possible for persons who are a part of the community to be a part of this community police commission. And one of the great things that I found when I joined the police commission, because at the time, it's not as much a worry for me because it's a couple years past, so I've gotten a raise, but was that I was going to have to take time away from my second job to join the commission because of the requirements of the commission. And then I found out that there was a stipend, so that mitigated some of that for me. And if I am getting docked for something as petty as not being on camera, or getting docked for not coming downtown and being in person, I don't know what we're doing. Yeah, those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I see Commissioner Dickerson's hand is still up, and also Commissioner Hunter's hand is up. I just want to add one point that during the work group meeting where we discussed this, it was this, I hope I'm capturing this right. Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Santillan could make sure I get this right. We discussed the possibility of instead of a requirement, that we write it in as a preference. That is preferred that if you're remote, that you can be on camera if possible. And that seemed to be something that folks had less concerns with. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that that was part of the discussion at the work group. Commissioner Hunter.
Thank you. I'm
sorry, Commissioner Hunter, since it was directly, the comment was to me, can I please respond?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for that. And what I appreciate about that, even with that word change of preference from no excuse, is that there is a choice. And the way that it's worded right now, there is zero choice in what you're able to do, or how we're able to show up or to participate. So if that word is changed to preference, that would make more sense to me. And I'm sorry, Reverend Hunter, please proceed.
Okay, Reverend Hunter.
Thank you. My comment about being on camera, I do understand that there are times when we're juggling. All of us are busy. If we were not busy with other parts of our lives and busy with other community work, the odds are we wouldn't be on this commission. But I think because this is a public City of Seattle commission, that it's important that we be seen. We were placed on the commission because of our community connections and the communities that we represent. And our communities deserve to see us fully participate in these meetings and discussions as much as possible. Yes, there will be times when one of us has to phone in or the internet's not working properly. And we certainly could make allowances for that. When we were appointed, we represented various city districts. And I believe that our constituencies deserve to see us participate in this political public forum. So also it's been our experience that when cameras are off, and perhaps when people are phoning in, that the engagement is minimal or inconsistent, or folks just aren't there. But they appear to be present, but when called on, they're not there. So I believe we have better participation when cameras are on. That certainly is my preference, and I would advocate for that. But I certainly could live with putting in that is a preference and not a requirement.
See Commissioner Dickerson. Yes.
Yeah, and I understand. I want to say that I respect what Commissioner Hunter is saying, but I do mimic what the other concerns are, where we don't want to add on barriers, because right now we're already having a hard time keeping commissioners and having commissioners come on board. So adding additional barriers to make it so that we can't get people to participate, I think we would be remiss with doing that. So I like the change for it to go to preference, because, you know, when people can, they can do that, you know, but to make it a requirement, I think that it just adds a level of a barrier. And right now we're trying to remove some of these barriers for participation.
Thank you, Commissioner Walden.
Thank you. I could understand preference for that, but also I think that it coming at least once a month in person would just enhance the quality of the commission. And I mean, you get to know people. Number one, you get to see them in the room, and it adds energy into the room, and it just adds a whole other round, meeting. And I'm sure if you are on the line to want to testify down in Olympia, you're going to have the camera on. I mean, it's going to be a requirement, but you just testifying for 3 minutes or something like that. But anyway, and about the time commitment. I mean, it is a lot of time, but I think everybody was at one point knew that the time commitment would be 10 hours or more. I mean, I think that's what they always said, and sometimes it's more than that. And it is a time consuming to do this work, but also I can move the preference there also, because it's not a theocracy, it's a democracy. So we want to be able to get the work done, and no barriers to the work, because I mean, it's about getting the work done and participating at every juncture that we can. And history tells us that when we're participating, things get done, and we're really proud of the work. We're really proud of the work that we get done, but we have to participate in removing the barriers so people can participate. Then that's why we went to 21, for the participation. So yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood.
Yeah, I want to speak in support of the preference amendment. I think that Reverend Walden and Co-Chair Hunter's points are well taken, and I think under our ordinance, under the spirit of the OPMA, obviously we have obligations to be transparent and visible to our constituents. I've, on the other hand, I've also attended remote city council meetings where council members on rare occasion didn't have their video on. In the US Supreme Court during the pandemic, there were justices that occasionally didn't have their video on. I don't think that's unprecedented, and I think that all of us share the interest, which I think is motivating the desire to make this a requirement, to just encourage further participation and involvement. And I think there are other ways to do that. I think that some of the equity concerns regarding folks' other commitments, the situations in which folks are able to call in from, but not with video. Ultimately, for those who might join this commission who don't necessarily have video capacity on their device, I think that those are all very persuasive to me. And so I think a preference strikes a balance between the concerns that have been raised on that on the side of transparency and visibility, but without undermining our principal effort to encourage participation, which can come in many forms and could be potentially discouraged by requiring cameras on.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood.
I have a.
Commissioner Wilson?
So I would ask that we amend that paragraph, which is number 7 under expectations on page 4. We read, if a commissioner is attending a commission or committee meeting remotely, the commissioner should make every effort to keep their camera on so that the commissioner remains visible to the public, and then take out the last sentence. about the requirement.
Thank you. Thank you for that language. So we don't have a motion on the floor yet, but we can build that into the motion when we get there. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for everyone who contributed. Yes, Officer Mullins.
Just one additional comment about the cameras. I understand the spirit of the idea of being in front, having the camera on, so that people can see us. I think that's a good idea in the spirit of it. But what has happened to me during the time that I've been on the commission is, in the attempt to not miss meetings, I have tried to attend a family funeral, but still attend the meeting, CPC meeting, and have gotten complaints because my camera was on and the person assumed that I was driving while in the meeting. I have all the proper gear and legal gear to be able to be on camera and drive or whatever. But at the same time, the hardship of having to go through an OPA complaint because I'm trying to make things better just disturbed me a little bit. So I'm on camera less than I have been in the beginning of my career, CPC. And generally, because of the meetings times, I have to come to work and I want to be on time. There's not a whole lot of officers, so I don't want to miss any time at work. So I make sure that I'm here. It's just very concerning to me that people pay attention to my background because I'm a police officer and because they take the opportunity to complain because my camera's on. Just a little thought there, just putting that out.
Thank you, Officer Mullins. Are there any other comments or discussions on where we are with the bylaw changes? So at this point, what I'm hearing is there's a number of commissioners who seem to be in support of changing the commissioner expectations and the requirements to attend in person once a month and on camera to a preference. And we have a lot of discussion on that. One other point that was brought up during the first work group meeting, and I might have to check in with Commissioner Santillan on this, and also Commissioner Walden, because I think Commissioner Walden brought this up. It was in the context of the co-chair's responsibility for supervising the ED, that the co-chairs have, that we write into the bylaws, an additional responsibility of the co-chairs to roughly once a quarter provide an update to the commission on the performance of the ED, so that the commissioners were somewhat involved and aware of what was going on with the co-chairs in the ED. So anyway, I wanted to just point that out. That was something that was discussed. It's not in the current draft, but it certainly could be added if folks think that that's appropriate. You want to speak to that? Reverend Walden.
I think it's really appropriate to put that there as a supervisor of the to be able to come to the commission. I mean, in executive session to give a status update. And it would be the same thing as evaluating the employees. I think the city has a process to evaluate, and I don't think if that's every 3 months, every 6 months, and maybe 9 months, and at the end of the year, and then give an assessment, and that employee knows exactly where they are, or on their journey as an employee. And sometimes that a recommendation for a raise, and maybe it's not. I don't want to, I don't know that part of it, but I just thought it'd be a great idea, and I think Commissioner Sandian also thought that was a great idea. And then everybody will always know where we are, know how things are going, and they know the health of the total commission. I mean, and the staff, and I mean, you would know a lot more budget-wise and everything else. So everybody has fiduciary responsibility, and that's also knowing about stipends and stuff. That's a fiduciary responsibility because this is public money, and that type of thing. So, yeah. So I think something added to that nature what you mentioned would be, I think would be, it gives coaches also more responsibilities for them to be in alignment with what the city's process is.
Commissioner Dickerson.
I would be in support of having something written in there in regards to doing some type of performance evaluation update to the commission, because we all should be on board in regards to if there were to be any performance issues and not be caught off guard with that, with going into an executive session and then finding out later on that there's been a history of bad performance. So also, given the fact that when you're doing an increase for a person at that level, and I believe it's under the ordinance that it states that it's discretionary. It's a discretionary increase. So I think there would be, a part of where the commission could provide input on that discretionary increase. So I would be in favor of putting something like that into the bylaws.
Thank you, Commissioner Dickerson. Is there anyone else that wishes to add a comment or a question or discussion?
What would be the course of action if, like I've had this happen at another workplace where someone reported, hey, my manager did this thing or said that this thing happened and it didn't. And what would be the process for the ED if there was, a disagreement on performance between themselves and a co-chair, or it doesn't even have to be performance. It could be, something that happened in a work meeting or whatever. What is that process? Like, what is their next step? If they wanted to bring that up, since the co-chairs since y'all aren't like city employees, what would the ED do?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Santiago. Let me make sure I understand your question. Is your question if there is a disagreement between the ED and the co-chairs, what does the ED do in that situation with that disagreement? How does the ED bring that?
So
go ahead.
Yeah. So if like, for example, if I had an issue with my manager that couldn't be resolved between us, then I would go to the next person up, either their boss or HR. So what does that process look like for the ED?
Right. Well, I think there's a couple of things. First, the ED can go. Oh, I see Gary Smith, our attorney, is there. Go ahead, Gary. Before I step in.
Hi, good morning. So that HR, the Seattle's HR department would be available for the executive director to raise any concerns. And depending on what types of concerns were raised, there's also the city's ombudsman, the Office of the Ombudsman, that is available to hear employee complaints and resolve disputes. So there are other avenues that the ED could pursue outside of the commission.
I appreciate that response, Gary. But what if it was, like, I'm trying to understand the oversight of whoever we have as co-chairs, also just for transparency about the commission. I know that some community members were curious of like, hey, I thought this person was the ED, now there's a different ED, and I would like guidance in that respect also, but more specifically to this, I think this is also something that just community members have asked about as well.
Well, ultimately, I think many disputes need to be worked out amongst the commissioners. There are provisions for removal of co-chairs. And then ultimately, commissioners do answer to their appointing authority. The appointing authority has ultimately removal authority over commissioners. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, and perhaps, Joel, what we talked about in the work group meeting around the ED being able to request space to talk to the full commission with co-chairs present about, like if there was a motion to remove the ED. I assume like if we had a situation that wasn't to that extent where we were voting on removal, but just like, hey, there's this issue that we haven't been able to resolve with the ombudsman or with HR and are requesting like space to discuss that with the commission to hopefully we're all able to resolve that in a transparent way. It sounds like that might provide space for that too. Is that correct? That was for you, Joel.
That was for me. So it's not explicitly written in either the bylaws or the ordinance that the ED would be able to come to the commission with a disagreement that did not rise to the level of removal, just kind of a performance disagreement. I don't see anything that prevents that from happening. And again, as Gary mentioned, there's other avenues that the ED can pursue and past EDs have pursued with ombuds and HR. I think that space is available. It's not blocked, if that's what you're asking, but it's not explicitly written out. If that's the other question you're asking.
Yeah, this was just a comment on just transparency for all of us, for co-chairs, for the commission, for the future ED, the interim ED also. Just wanting to make sure that there's space for that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think I just want to just emphasize that in the bylaws there are obligations and responsibilities of the co-chairs, and the co-chairs are answerable to the commissioners, and so it's the co-chair's duty to perform their job consistent with that expectation. I think that was also the reason we had discussed adding this responsibility to the co-chairs in the bylaws, that the co-chairs do need to come to the commissioners once a quarter and have that discussion on the ED performance. And to the extent that there are questions that commissioners have, that's the opportunity in the forum to discuss those questions. And I think to the extent a commissioner or commissioners want the ED to be part of that discussion, I don't see anything that prevents that. Or at least that's my read on it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other changes in the proposed changes that commissioners are interested in discussing?
I have one
Yes.
question.
Commissioner Wilson.
So at the last recommended change reduces the threshold to amend the bylaws from 2/3 to 1/2, and all the other boards I've been on have a 2/3 requirement. So I just wonder what the purpose of reducing it to 1/2 is.
Are you are you suggesting that we keep it at 2/3?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone else have any discussion on that?
That was going to be my comment as well, and the 3/4 to 2/3.
Yeah. Right. Well, the 3/4 to 2/3 is a different number. So 2/3 is a supermajority, right? And currently in the ordinance and the bylaws, it says to remove a commissioner, remove an ED, or remove a co-chair. It takes 3/4. And the proposed change is to reduce that to 2/3, which is still a supermajority. And it's not just 3/4 of anyone present, it's 3/4 of sitting commissioners. So, you know, for example, you could have 10 commissioners present and a commission of 17. And if 7 commissioners don't show up, you still have quorum, but you would be impossible to get the 3/4. And 2/3 is still a supermajority. So the rationale was that it's still a supermajority, and it allows the commission to operate more effectively. I don't have as much for you on the 2/3 to 1/2 on the amendments. And I, you know, if folks feel like it should stay at 2/3, that would be more consistent with the other numbers. Yes, Reverend Walden.
I mean, like I said, it's the amount of the total commissioners, not the quorum, and so you would have a harder time exercising that if the total count is 17 or 21, and you have a quorum, but you don't have a supermajority to be able to operate the business as necessary. I suggest we need to go to the new recommendation. I mean, because we run into these not often, but we have run into this situation. So, and I think we need to move to the place that's going to make things a little bit easier. I mean, we're back here because when we wrote the ordinance in 2017, we had no idea to foreshadow what was coming. I mean, we didn't see that 2 co-chairs was stepped down and within a week of each other. I mean, so many things we didn't foreshadow, and we didn't foreshadow this either. So I think that, I mean, we're just trying to go back and look at it and see where the glitches were and how it needs to be implemented to be to what really is in real time. It is all real time experience that we've experienced since the ordinance was written.
No, I appreciate that comment, Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Santillan on the 1/2 to 2/3. I think that's a point well taken. Lost her life.
That's flying there.
There was I'll just take this opportunity to give other commissioners, if they have thoughts, to gather them and contribute if there are any. With respect to stipends, I know that was discussed in the work groups, and also Commissioner Johnson brought it up today. The intention there is, firstly, if you look at the existing bylaws under commissioner expectations, it outlines attendance requirements. And it also specifies that if commissioners do not meet those attendance requirements, which are essentially 75% of the scheduled meetings, including work group meetings, that must be attended unless there's an excused absence. So an unexcused absence rate of greater than 25% is cause to remove a commissioner. The intention with the stipends, firstly, from the beginning, has always been to compensate, as Commissioner Johnson mentioned, the burden that it takes for commissioners to participate. That's always been the intention. So to the extent that a commissioner is participating and incurs a burden for that participation, that commissioner is entitled to a stipend under the ordinance. The proposal is just to clarify that attendance is essentially tied to the commissioner expectations in the bylaws. So it's not adding a new burden or a new requirement or making it more difficult. It just clarifies that that's the requirement that we're talking about. That if you can't have less than 25% unexcused absences, then you shouldn't be entitled to a stipend. It just connects the two. So I just wanted to clarify that what the intention was behind it. Are there any other comments or questions or discussion on the proposed changes to the bylaws?
I just wanted to make a comment on the 10 hours of volunteer service, just to the other commissioners that weren't in the work groups. You know, I brought up that there are some commissioners that do well beyond that. That doesn't look like only work group meetings or only CPC meetings, like CPC meetings like the one we're having now, but do a lot in their community around police accountability and justice work, and really wanting to make sure that those were also counting towards that 10 hours. I think it goes back to just like historical, what we count as volunteering. And I think especially for BIPOC communities, like we do that all the time in spaces that don't, that are not called formal volunteer hours or volunteer service, but just wanted to call that out for commissioners that that we did discuss that, and that is included. The work that we're doing in our communities is included in that 10 hours.
That's right. And also it's really important that those hours be, reported to a certain degree. So, and that's where Felicia, our community engagement specialist, is really important. So to the extent that you are out in your community, engaging with your community on police accountability issues, police oversight issues, it's really important that we, bring that back to the commission and so that it could be part of the commission's work. But Commissioner Santillan's absolutely right.
Yeah, we didn't mention that part. The reporting part, we didn't talk about that.
No, we didn't. You're right. We didn't. I just added that.
Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner Walden, do you want to
But
speak?
also in the past, Nick them always gave a report. The engagement committee gave a report of people. In fact, they would call you up and ask you, what were your commitment? I mean, where did you go this month and stuff like that. So it has been done in the past, but it might not have been done in the last couple of years, but it was done in the past. Because that's how you build your annual report. That's part of the annual report, because if you don't have that from the commissioners for where they've been, then you don't have a full annual report. That was sort of like missing in this time for people to put it together, because that reporting wasn't going on, and it was COVID. So nobody was out. We all sent us home for a crime we didn't commit. But so that made it easier for the communication department to structure the annual report based on the commissioners who's been out in the community. So.
And just to be clear, Commissioner Santillan, that the reporting is not something that's included in the bylaws right now or the changes. It's just an understanding that if you're going to do that volunteer work, it's much more helpful to community engagement in the annual report process for the commission to be aware of that work. So that's again another preference. Commissioner Santillan, Felicia has her hand up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just briefly, and sorry to interrupt. We are, now that I'm fully staffed and have the capability to build those structures and forms and check-ins, that we are working on the infrastructure for that, where we will be rolling out a plan as we will be rolling out, what's happening in each community, in each district that is available to sign up for, or if you've attended anything on that weekend, there will be a reporting system coming out. And I have been talking about this with the team now that I have support. So I don't have an estimated date for you right now at this moment, but it is something that we are working on it for accountability.
Thank you. Commissioner Santillan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, the commissioner's work should be in addition to what the community engagement work of the CPC is doing. I don't think that would preclude us putting out or prevent us from putting out an annual report. At least it hasn't in the past. It's been quite some years since we've had any, gosh, I don't even remember how long since we were doing check-ins about what meetings people were attending. And that was even pre-COVID, like Reverend Walden said. Even before COVID, I can't remember the last time that happened. And we were still able to put out an annual report. But yeah, that's exciting to hear for Felicia's team. And yeah, I just wanted to make that clarifying comment.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, thoughts on where we are with the bylaws?
Sorry, Joel, I just wanted to, I don't know if anybody The Article 3 and Article, what's the other one? 5, are those connected then? Are we making adjustments to both of those in regards to participation?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
It says establishes a permanent hybrid in-person remote meeting option while requiring a commissioner attend a regular commission meeting in person at least once a month. So are we changing that requiring language to the language we were considering for Article 3 around requirement versus preference or preferred?
Well, yeah, so we're not yet to a motion yet, but my plan was to entertain a motion to the bylaw changes with substituting the preference language that Commissioner Wilson suggested to Article 3. I'm not seeing Article 5, which here. Where in
I just
Article
have
5?
It just says meetings. It's right after officers, and then it goes into meetings, and then right before committees. At least in the copy of the proposed changes to CPC bylaws I have.
Yeah, I'm on Article 5 meetings. Where in Article 5 are you referencing?
I just have one. It says amend A, participation in meetings by telephone.
It's actually the in-person requirement is on Article 3, paragraph 6.
Yeah,
It's not Article.
yeah, I think Commissioner Santillan, I think what you're talking about is Article 3. Article 5 provides for a permanent hybrid option. So that's kind of cementing our current structure, which is folks can come in person or hybrid.
Right, and then just so that the language where it says while requiring a commissioner attend a regular commission meeting in person at least once a month, it'll just mirror what we were doing in Article 3 then.
Well, I'm not seeing where in Article 5 it changes that.
I'll send you the copy that I have. I just copy and pasted it from, or made a copy from the CPC bylaws. I'll send that to you, Joel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing, the only change to Article 5 that I have on the draft that's we're gonna vote on soon is to provide for a permanent hybrid meeting option. The concern there being that, COVID has changed the world. So, and we've had extensive discussion on attending these meetings remotely. And that the one change that I see in Article 5 basically cements that. I'm not seeing any other change, but I mean, Commissioner Santillan, if your concern is that the in-person and camera on requirement remain a preference, that's the intention, I think, from the majority of folks, if not everyone.
Okay, great. The last comment I had was just the removes the requirement that co-chairs cannot be from the same appointing authority. That's, for me, that's more about oversight of the appointing authorities than it is the co-chairs. I know that we got into a situation where we didn't have people step up to, or just frankly couldn't take on the role of a co-chair. Again, that's a big job. But I think just past experiences, like my concern is oversight for the appointing bodies and how they interact or interfere with the work of the CPC. So I would like at least for one co-chair to not be from the same appointing authority, not having everyone be from the city council or everyone be from the mayor's office. And I'm curious to hear other commissioners' thoughts on that.
Step away from the chair and the speaker. The reason why we're thinking about that is because someone that it's also foreshadow the events that we never saw coming. Is that at one time we didn't have anybody to step up from another appointing authority, and we only had two that was willing to step up, and they were from the same appointing authority. And for the consistency of the CPC, then we actually was trying to suspend the rules so that we can move forward. I mean, because a lot of, and also, I mean, just an aside, puts it on the parking lot, is I think that maybe going forward that we think about encouraging other commissioners to, you know, maybe we can do a co-chair training or something to encourage other commissioners to actually step up to be commissioners. But this is also foreshadowing. We didn't see that happening before, and without the co-chairs, and you don't have an organization. The CPC can't function, and somebody had to step up. And the people who were available was from the same appointing authority as it is right now, the Reverend Hunter and Reverend Joe Merkel are from the same appointing authority. They were willing to step up. In the past, the other people who stood, who stepped up, was willing to step up, and so I'm still here, knowing that I maybe sort of been rolled off, but the appointing authority has never taken me out my seat. But I've been, you know, I don't facilitate any of the business. I'm just here to just be the history point, or if they need reference and stuff like that. And so the other thing is that it goes better with 3, because you need, if 2 of them are not available, then nothing goes out, because they have to have 2 co-chairs to support any letters or anything that goes out. And so if you just have 2 and 1 is not available, then the work doesn't move. So that was the reason why we always wanted to have 3, so that the work can move forward without hung up. So those are the reasons why. But we've had a couple times when we have only had people willing to step up, because it's a lot of work. I mean, it is more than 10 hours. No, I was just, I just knowing I wasn't speaking over you. I was just giving the explanation of the why as it is right now and as it was before. People those stepped up and you know, we was able to move forward so the work could go forward. Not in disagreement, but just in clarification why that happened for this, like, right, this is where we are in this moment in time. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And yes, ma'am. No, and I agree with that. And that's I essentially said exactly what you just said. And I know that there was a situation again where people didn't step up, and the people that did happen to be from the same appointing body. Now that we have new commissioners and we're becoming a more robust, hopefully engaged commission, I would like to entertain that we have co-chairs from different appointing bodies. Again, that's not about the co-chairs. That's essentially providing, I hope, more oversight to the appointing authorities, so there aren't things happening behind closed doors to the co-chairs or comments made to the co-chairs that affect the commission. Again, the co-chair, like, if there are people that want to volunteer for that position, that's amazing whenever we get to that point. I know I don't have capacity to show up in the way that both you, Reverend Hunter, and Commissioner Merkel show up. There might be other people that have that kind of availability. But yeah, we're not in disagreement, and I hear what you're saying. And that was just the situation that we were in before, just based on where we were as a commission, but would like that to change moving forward.
I'll just step away from the chair and just offer one comment. I really appreciate Commissioner Santillan's perspective. The one thing I want to share and why I'm comfortable making this change and why I actually think it's important to make this change is historically, well, the ordinance is quite clear, and as are the bylaws, that being a co-chair is a significant responsibility, takes a lot of work, and not everyone can step up. So we already have a challenge in getting in having folks step up. So putting this requirement is a barrier to folks stepping up. That's one. Number two, I would have more concern about removing this requirement if it was the appointing authority that chose which of their commissioners would be eligible to be co-chair. That's not how it works. How it works is the commission makes its own decision on who is going to be a co-chair. And one of the changes that is on the discussion draft is to remove the threshold to remove a co-chair from 3/4 to 2/3, which makes it easier for the commission to remove a co-chair if that co-chair is not living up to the expectations of commissioners. So I see it as something that in the past helped the CPC be independent, but I don't see that. I just don't see that today. I don't think it's necessary for the CPC to maintain its independence. It's already independent. We independently choose our own co-chairs. Co-chairs self nominate themselves to a slate. Commissioners vote on them. If commissioners want to remove that co-chair, again, there's a proposal to reduce that threshold. And, you know, we've had situations in the past where the only folks willing to step up were from the same appointing authority. And so this just makes it easier for the commission, in my view, to do what it wants to do. But, you know, I appreciate the history and Commissioner Santillan's perspective a lot. Thank you.
And it's more of just concern for moving forward too. And so I don't know, I know this is not, I don't know when it's appropriate to file a motion to make an adjustment, but would there be space to,
well,
you know,
yeah. Why don't we do this? Yeah, why don't we do this? Sorry, Commissioner Santillan, why don't we do this? Why don't I entertain a motion to put the changes to the bylaws on the floor, and then we can consider a motion to amend the co-chair appointing authority requirement. Before I entertain that motion, I just want to clarify that there are 3 changes to the existing draft that folks seem to have coalesced around. And I just want to summarize those changes for the purposes of the motion. One is to change the language for in-person attendance and camera on from a requirement to a preference, consistent with Commissioner Wilson's proposed language. Number 2 is to change the proposal to reduce the threshold to change the bylaws from 2/3 to 1/2 back to 2/3, essentially to keep it at 2/3. And then 3, to add in a co-chair responsibility to update commissioners on the ED performance once per quarter. So I would entertain a motion at this time to adopt the bylaws changes as currently drafted with those 3 changes that I just described that have been discussed today. Is there such a motion?
I will step away from the chair and move that the proposed changes to the bylaws be approved with those 3 changes as outlined by Commissioner Merkel.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. There's a second. So we have a motion on the floor, and Commissioner Santillan, do you have a motion to amend the motion to remove, or well, with respect to commissioner co-chairs and appointing authorities?
yes, is this the point where I file a motion to say what it could be?
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of removing the requirement completely that the co-chairs cannot be from the same appointing body, assuming that there are always 3 co-chairs, can we make an adjustment, or I file a motion to make an adjustment that at least one of the 3 co-chairs be from a different appointing body or appointing authority?
Okay, so now there's a motion to amend the motion to require that when there are 3 co-chairs, at least one of the co-chairs be from a different appointing authority. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
Okay, the motion's been seconded. Is there any discussion on Commissioner Wood?
No, apologies. I have another motion for another amendment on these provisions.
Okay, so we'll get to your motion to amend in a minute. Is there any discussion on Commissioner Santillan's motion?
Yes, my question is, it doesn't address if there are only two co-chairs, then what?
I mean, it sounds like, according to Reverend Walden, also that 3 co-chairs is really important. I know it's a lot of work for the 3 of you, and I can't imagine 2 people doing this. So I don't know if there needs to be a motion to ensure that there are 3 co-chairs, or, yeah, I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
think when I came on, there were only 2.
So just for point of clarification, the current bylaws, which are not proposed to be changed, in Article 4, Section 2, co-chair nominations shall be presented as a slate of at least 2 commissioners and a maximum of 3. That's the current language. And my understanding of the motion is that to the extent there are 3 co-chairs, at least one of them be from a different appointing authority. That's my understanding of Commissioner Santillan's motion.
So that if there are 2, it could be from the same appointing authority.
I guess that would defeat the purpose of my motion in terms of just diversifying the co-chairs.
I was just trying to get clarity.
Okay.
No,
so,
I appreciate that. I mean, that would defeat the purpose of my motion if there are only 2. But I assume that I can't make that motion. Can I adjust or edit that motion, Joel, for 2 instead of 3?
I think you can offer a friendly amendment since it's your motion. I'd have to check with our parliamentarian. Is our Gary?
The
Gary,
Robert's rules of order are so antiquated, and it is confusing. So
you can withdraw your motion and make a new one, I suppose.
Yes, you can do that.
all right, well, here we go. The non-lawyer is going to withdraw my motion and make an amendment to file a new motion that the co-chairs, I guess if there are 2 or 3, be from different appointing authorities. If there are 3, at least having 1 co-chair from a different appointing authority. If there are 2, making sure that each co-chair is from a different appointing authority.
Okay. Is there a second to Commissioner Santillan's motion?
Commissioner Husband, second.
Okay, there's a second. Is there discussion on Commissioner Santillan's motion?
I just have a comment to maybe clarify it and just say that no matter what, that there always be 2 appointing authorities represented as co-chairs, always. 2 of the 3 appointing authorities shall always have a representative.
I think that's probably the cleanest way to say what I think Commissioner Santillan is saying.
That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
So just make it really simple,
So
that there
that-
always be 2 of the 3 appointing.
At least 2 appointing authorities shall always be represented as co-chairs. That's probably the cleanest way to encapsulate Commissioner Santillan's motion. There is a
Thank you,
second.
Commissioner Wilson.
There is a second. Is there any discussion on Commissioner Santillan's motion?
Yes, I think that's how we got into this place where we are right now. Is that when we were looking for a slate of co-chairs, there were 2 of us, and we were who were willing, and we were from the same appointing authority. And so if this motion passes, then if we as a commissioner ever in this situation again, then we are without co-chairs because we could only have 1. And so I would have to vote against this motion.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe we need to think about the requirements of being co-chairs. Like if people aren't recognizing that this is too much work for themselves, then maybe we need to think about the commissioners that we're bringing on and whether they have capacity to step up in the ways that are required for co-chairs.
I'll step away from chair and just offer a comment. Again, I appreciate the motion. My concern is what is the problem we're trying to solve? From what I can tell, the concern is that the CPC needs to maintain its independence, and we don't want to be unduly influenced by a particular appointing authority. That's my understanding of really the main point of this amendment. In my view, that is not a problem we have. With Commissioner Hunter and I both serving as co-chairs, We're both from the same appointing authority. I don't think this commission, in my view, is unduly influenced by the city council, which is also the same appointing authority for Commissioner Santillan. Again, the commission gets to decide its own commissioners. We have our own free will, our own enterprise agency to choose who we want to be commissioners. Of course, dependent upon which commissioners are willing to step up and do the work. So with respect to the concern that it diminishes our independence to have 2 co-chairs or 3 co-chairs from the same appointing authority, I understand the concern, I just do not share it. So I would vote against it.
And that might be, and I appreciate that perspective, that the CPC, the co-chairs we have had in the past have been harmed and impacted by appointing bodies who put them in those positions, even though they had their own slates. And I think just from a community standpoint as well, where there is already distrust of government, I would rather, I don't know, use this as an attempt to be more transparent and have some accountability for the appointing bodies and not just the co-chairs. I'm glad it's not an issue right now. And I don't know who's going to be the next mayor or who's going to be on city council after this and what kind of influence that will have. I just know that it was harmful in the past and it took us a long time to get out of that, which was why I'm proposing it.
I guess they're doing it just, I guess.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on Commissioner Santillan's motion to restrict co-chairs to separate authorities, appointing authorities?
I guess I could speak to that on this one issue because I was one of those co-chairs when the things happened, and we did find a way to move forward. Emma was reappointed by the city council in the way that happened, and she did stay as a commissioner. And when she stepped down, it was something else that wasn't that particular issue that Emma stepped down from. It was something else that why she stepped down. But we did move through that. And we've had some fine co-chairs since then. And we had some co-chairs that stepped down and moved on. I mean, but the conversation, it's worth the conversation. But the people who stepped up as co-chairs, a lot of those people are still engaged as consultants or willing to aid us in ways that when was necessary. They were still willing to give something back to the community police commission because they still was believing that we could still get good work done. But I'm in touch with some of those co-chairs that was here in the past.
Unless there's any other discussion, which we're happy to have on Commissioner Santillan's amendment, we'll go ahead and call a vote. I'll go through the attendance that we had this morning. Commissioner Erickson?
No.
Commissioner Hunter?
No.
Commissioner Dickerson? Commissioner Dickerson's not on. Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner Walden?
No.
Commissioner Merkel, that's me, I'm a no. Commissioner Mullins?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Abstain.
Commissioner Santillan?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler? Not here. Commissioner Ruffin?
Yes.
See, I have no 5, abstain 1, yes 4. So this motion fails. I understand Commissioner Wood, you have a motion you referenced earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I think in line Co-Chair Merkel with what you were saying about the role of the commission itself in voting for co-chairs to police the bounds of our independence. I mean, I think that we're all aware, and you mentioned that that commissioners don't always necessarily share the policy views of their incumbent or past holders of their appointing authority. And I think that the commission can do a good job to maintain that independence. To aid that, I think one measure consistent with the theme of these red lines, but maybe not going as far, is just to put the onus on candidates for co-chair to disclose at the time of announcing their candidacy, their appointing authority. I know that we try to keep the website updated. It isn't always, or people don't always have the chance to look. And I think it's also for the benefit of the public to have that transparency. And it would allow commissioners to take into account these concerns of relationship to account of appointing authority in voting for co-chairs without necessarily imposing firmer boundaries. So yeah, no, my motion would be limited to adding a requirement that at the time candidates for co-chair announce their candidacy, that they disclose to the commission in a public meeting their appointing authority.
Okay,
There's a motion on the floor, so that's an amendment.
yeah, that would be a motion to amend.
Mm.
So I understand, is there a second to Commissioner Wood's motion? To just, for when a commissioner is part of a slate that for co-chairs, that commissioner disclosed to the commission their appointing authority.
Second.
There's a second. Is there discussion?
I just have to say that's my 2 years of being here. It's always done. It just seems almost like a moot point. That's always part of the conversation as to, and we always know what commissioner is appointed by what authority. So we can put that in there, but it's always a part of the conversation. It's like having a quorum. How many do you need? What is the appointing authority? Since I have been here, it has always been a part of the conversation. Who appointed you to the commission? Now let's talk about, are you able to be a co-chair? Do you have the capacity? But it's always, it's not a hidden thing.
No, I appreciate that history, Co-Chair Hunter. And if it's been our practice, I think it's a great precedent that we've been using and perhaps worth codifying.
Well, I would just step away from the chair for a minute to offer that that I don't have a problem with what you're proposing, Commissioner Wood, but I would say it almost feels a little redundant in part because I feel like everyone, especially the community, needs to know which appointing authority appointed each commissioner, and that should be real-time updated on the website with our commissioner bios with headshots. By the way, here's a little plug. We're going to have headshots coming up on May 17 in our offices. If you don't have one, please show up so you can get a headshot and we can add that to the website. But so I have zero problem with what you're suggesting, Commissioner Wood. I think it's important that not just commissioners know, but the public know where which appointing authority appointed each commissioner. I don't know if we need to write it into the bylaws with respect to elections, but I do think, website needs to have that data for the community. Anyway, those are my comments. Any other discussion on Commissioner Wood's motion, which has been seconded? Okay, we're going to go ahead and go into a vote. So the vote now is on Commissioner Wood's proposed amendment, which would add a requirement to commissioner co-chair elections that the slate of co-chairs disclose to the commission their appointing authority. Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Abstain.
Commissioner Dickerson. Commissioner Wilson.
Abstain.
Commissioner Walden.
No.
Commissioner Merkel, that's me, no. Commissioner Mullins,
Abstain.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner Santillan,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler. No. Commissioner Ruffin.
Yes.
We have yes 5, no's 2, abstain 3, so that motion does carry. So the fourth change then to the draft that is on the floor for a motion is to add a requirement to the election of co-chairs that the slate of co-chairs disclosed to commissioners they're appointing for. So we can add that link. Adding that language has been approved. Okay, with that, we're back to the original motion. Is there any other discussion on the original motion to adopt the bylaw changes as amended? Is there any other amendments proposed? So we're back to the original motion. Okay, seeing none, unless there's any additional discussion, questions, I'll go ahead and we'll take the vote on the bylaw changes as currently presented in the draft red line document with those 4 changes that we've discussed today. Just getting ready for that. Start with Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Commissioner Dickerson. Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Commissioner Walden.
Yes.
Commissioner Merkel, that's me, yes. Commissioner Mullins.
Fuck you, then. Abstain.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner Santillan.
Abstain.
Commissioner Tyler. Commissioner Ruffin.
Yes.
So our current bylaws require that if we're to make changes to our bylaws, 2/3 of our current membership vote yes. 2/3 of our current membership has voted, or 8, 2/3 of our current membership is 10. At the moment, we have 8 yeses and 2 abstentions. So we do not have the 2/3 at this meeting at this time. I can go back and ask our abstentions if they remain abstained. Otherwise, we can table this and bring it up when more commissioners are present. Because not all the commissioners are present right now. And the bylaws require not 2/3 of commissioners present, but 2/3 of the commission's membership, which is 10. Do any of the commissioners who abstained wish to change their vote?
No.
Okay. So with that, the changes have not yet been adopted. We have 8 yeses, 0 nos, 2 abstentions. With our current membership, it does require 10. By our next meeting, 2/3, I think will go up to 11. I have to do my math. So we can continue this conversation at the next meeting, but this time we don't have enough commissioners to complete our business. So with that, there's nothing else on the agenda today. Oh, can you do it?
Oh, okay.
We have a special guest in person today.
Yes, we want to introduce Mr. Scott, that was the interim, that was staff for the CPC, and when Ms. Lopez stepped down, and you agreed to step up as interim, and was there for a year and a half. So, Mr. Scott, you want to come to the table?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I wanted to see you all in person. I've been on the on the phone since you started driving in, dropping off my little kiddo, but of course, my heart is always for the CPC.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate Reverend Walden for getting me through those, I think almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Versus policy director. And now I'm the deputy inspector general. So it's great to be back at the table with the accountability partners.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's got some commissioners that on there.
A lot of new faces.
Yeah,
It's very
but I have some
exciting.
there that was here when you were here.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, Mark, Commissioner Mark Mellon and Commissioner Sandian was here when you were here. So
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's hard for me to sit quietly because I always want to jump in.
I know, I saw you.
So yeah, thanks for having me. So I'll be here in person, representing the OIG every 2 weeks.
Great.
I love being in person, so I like the community, and I agree with Reverend Walden. It adds energy when we're in the same space together.
Yeah.
So it's good to see you all.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you at future meetings.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I want to thank again every commissioner for the work that they've done, not just on the bylaws and the ordinance discussion, but on all the work groups. Thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our next commission meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.